right, we're here live, maiden voyage of Paul Revere Radio, here to do all kinds of screw-ups and everything, and I'm just going to let Chris here take us into what he wants to talk about first.
Well, Matt, first of all, let's...
Quit being so professional, everybody knows you're a goof-off.
Let's... first, I want to welcome the couple of listeners we have who are here as part of the inaugural mission, where as we knock stuff off the tables
he rips my earlobes straight
and
from
tear
my
up
head.
the studio. Thanks for listening, and thanks for being part. And we will you'll definitely see some changes as we move forward with the show from today, when we first start to talk about things and first start to get used to each other and throw things back and forth here. To we're ready to take on Rush Limbaugh for his spot here.
And the beer helps.
Have with us Ricky Nelson as our other host tonight. And so it's a three-man show here on Paul Revere, and looking forward to getting right into it. Rick the first, he's vaping.
Absolutely. I got to get something. I got to put up with you.
You might need more than that. Well, the first thing we want to do is go right into, I think, the topic of the day and topic of the week or month, depending on how you look at it. And it's the goings-on in Washington, D.C. with the continuing resolution and the Obamacare ups and downs and the Senate games and the House games and all that's going on in D.C. So, Matt, the latest today was that the newest information from the House is that they are looking, since the Senate has kicked everything back to them, they are looking at delaying implementation, passing a bill that delays implementation of Obamacare for 1 year, taking it to 2015. And then also in the same thing, repealing the medical device tax, and in the same bill, ensuring paychecks to military members go out on time. That's what they're looking at sending back to the Senate, where Harry Reid has already said anything that does anything at all to Obamacare is dead on arrival. So
it looks like we're going to have a government shutdown.
It does.
As if that's actually anything to worry about in the
Exactly,
first place.
right.
Yeah, I mean, that's something to definitely talk about, but thoughts on the bill, I mean, my personal thoughts are that this is probably the best way to go at this point for the House and for Republicans, and also, most importantly, for the American people. The bill that they're going to send back works functionally and politically. So if Democrats choose to shut down the government because they aren't getting everything they want in funding Obamacare right from day one, then I think they do it at their own peril, and that they do it with big losses in 2014.
Well, I think what they're trying to do is to do what they've done in the past, and hoping that the Republicans will jump on this, and hoping that the government does shut down, because they think that maybe at some point it'll look bad for the Republicans.
Yeah, but the government shut down, 26 times before? Last time it shut down.
But did it ever look bad for the Republicans before?
Well, it was supposed. It was supposed to last time, but we gained a few seats in the Senate and the House last time. Last time we had a government shutdown, there was no backlash on the Republicans. So why is this a worry? It's because they have no spine.
Right.
Yeah, the first time we had a government shutdown, Eisenhower was president, but
that's a little history people just don't know.
What I think that we're going to see, I definitely think we're going to see a government shutdown. I don't think there's any doubt about that, guys. It's going to shut down. I don't think it's going to shut down for weeks or months. I think it's a matter of a few days.
Really?
I think that the Senate, I think you're going to see some defections on the Democrat side. We've already seen Joe Manchin say that he could support a delay of a year, and I think you're going to see other senators that are in tight races in states where Romney carried the state. I think you're going to see them jump ship and maybe get involved and find some compromise. And
do you think Republicans are going to be more unified this time around next year, as far as elections go? And we're talking about the government shutdown and how it's going to be related to next year's elections.
I'm not so sure about that. I think that you're going to have, again, another split down the middle as far as the more libertarian style, like the Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Mike Leese, and Republicans versus the old guard.
Right.
And unfortunately, they've still got a lot of power.
They do.
They've still got a lot of power. And yes, guys, that is a live chat. So keep chatting. Send us, this is kind of a test run. So send us anything you think we can do better and all that.
This is a test. This is only
it's
a
not
test.
just us up here. If you want to leave a comment there and tell us how we're doing or what we've got to improve on, go ahead and let us know.
And I guess, yes, I know I need a better mic stand. I had
We've got two
I have
great-
to hunker. He's really into the topic as he's hunched over to the mic and staring at the screen.
Well, back to Obamacare. I want to put out this idea here. We hear about the government shutdown. We hear about all the crap going on right now. But what nobody seems to realize is that they've already exempted themselves. If you work in the government, basically for the Senate, for the House, or if you're a staffer, you're exempt with the White House as well.
Well, some people say that's just talking points, and that's not the truth.
That's actually true. Go read the bill. Go read
okay.
go read the amendments. There's
All right.
10,000 pages. There's a lot there. I haven't read them all, but I skimmed over as
I
much
don't
as I
think
can.
anybody's ever read it.
Yeah.
You got to pass it to know what's in it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But anyway, yes, they are exempt. Now, if you really think about it, read the Constitution. I mean, there is a little red section in there that bans titles of nobility, and everybody thinks that's outdated. But the problem is the title of nobility is being exempt from the laws that you pass down to others.
Right.
And that's what they've done. They've exempted themselves. They've given themselves a title
Well,
of
it's
nobility.
executive orders, right?
Well, not through executive order, but
Oh.
by exempting themselves where they don't have to follow the law that we have to follow. That is a title of nobility.
Right.
Okay, and they have basically done away with their right to serve in the government. They have no right to be in the Senate anymore. They should be impeached.
There's
Point.
there's a fallback bill that is out there that would simply pass Obamacare, move it through, but make the government officials that passed it, including staffers, some White House officials.
Bud Light.
Well, the bill would make all of that, all of those staffers and government employees part of Obamacare. I think that's fine. That's a great idea, but it doesn't go far enough. I don't think it comes even close to what we need to do.
Well, I was hearing the other day that that Ted Cruz was pushing that maybe we should do this in small increments as far as the government shutdown goes, because he said maybe if we were just to push smaller sections of what we want to do as far as passing something from Congress into the Senate and saying, how about we just eliminate a small portion instead of going with the whole thing as far as cutting down Obamacare. If we do small pieces, they can't refuse that. They'd have to say, let's fund the military. Everybody knows on the Republican side and Democrat side you want to fund
they've
it.
already
But,
done that,
I mean,
though.
just small little things. They're doing it as one big chunk. That's what he was saying.
Right.
Yeah, but they're funding
Correct.
everything else. They're funding the entire government except for Obamacare, and they're blaming the Republicans for the eventual shutdown of the government.
Right.
Now, we
Well,
are
that's just
trying to
politics, though.
fund
It's
the
both
whole
sides.
government, but the
Yeah.
problem is that they're probably going to get through with it to at least the Obamanoids,
Yeah, I mean the message that and the problem with the Republican Party on this whole issue has been messaging. They haven't had a clear message until recently that what they're doing and how they're going to move forward.
Right.
This was all kind of kept way too quiet and way too behind the scenes to actually appeal to the people. I mean, right now you're looking at a situation where the Republican Party, the elected officials from the Republican Party, would not be the least bit worried about if they offended their fellow Democrats in the House and Senate. It's they're worried about how they will be portrayed in the media and how it'll look to the American people and how many seats it will cost them.
Right, but that's the same reason why we should have people like Ted Cruz up there standing and going against the grain, because people are too worried about their next election, and they're not put in there to worry about their election. They're there to represent us and make the votes, the hard votes that the people want.
Yeah,
Not
but
about
at
what's
the
going
same
to help.
time, that's got to win him a lot of votes right there. I mean, it wins him a lot of respect
Right, exactly.
with me. I mean, come on. Anybody who can stand up there for 21 hours.
Right. And isn't it
And he
true
could have kept
now-
going.
Yeah,
Isn't
he
it
kept
true?
going.
Isn't it true though? At the same time, because Ted Cruz did what he did, now all of a sudden it changed the mind of the party, as far as defunding Obamacare, because many of them were saying, "Hey, let's just fund the Obamacare and let's move forward."
But do you really think that?
But beforehand, it was.
Do you really think that they're going to have the stones to follow through that, or are they just trying to ride the bandwagon?
Who knows, right? I think it's riding with the bandwagon.
I think Cruz is going to hold him accountable. For a freshman senator, he is taking control over there. He really has, and people are going to have to listen to him because he has the media attention. He's had a clear message through all this, and it's something that needs to be duplicated. The message that he has is defund it. It's bad for the American people, and he made his case for 21 hours, and there were a lot of good examples, and he took a lot of tough questions from Democrats and his own party.
But do you really think John Boehner is going to back up Ted Cruz?
No.
Or anybody that's against its own party?
No, John Boehner's a Democrat that calls himself a Republican.
Well, I don't think it comes down to Boehner. I think it's the House has enough.
Just a side note. Look at that spelling. I'm sorry, it's not Boehner. It's Boner. It's Boner. Okay.
But he's the leader of the party.
He has enough conservative or Tea Party members. Careful, we don't want to say Tea Party because that's like saying terrorist.
Oh yeah, they're those anarchist terrorists,
right?
Nonviolent anarchists. It's so.
What did Pelosi say?
terrorist.
What did she call them? The political arsonists?
No, that was anarchist.
Something.
Yeah, they call it. She called them anarchist.
Yeah. She used the term arsonist too.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
There's enough over there that will force Boehner to lean to the conservative side, or else nothing's going to get passed over there. And he's
but
not.
What really works? You know what really works for the Democrats, though? They can throw out those insults, and the Republicans never insult them back. Have you noticed that? I mean, it always works for the Democrats.
There is something to be said for taking the high road, though.
Right. Absolutely.
But at the same time, they never play offense very often. The Republicans.
It's one of the things
always
that
the defense.
separates.
I'll get into offense a little later.
But I'm just saying the party overall does never play the offense end. They always play it. Hey, let's back up what they say and let's say with fact. But at the same time, they never go on the offense and attack the Democrats. In many different ways.
There's probably a lot of people listening to this show that wonder why this is such a big deal. It's just another government bill, another continuing resolution, another funding of the government. What's the big deal? I think people have to understand that this is the last chance, really, to stop Obamacare. This is the last chance to stop a program that's going to cost billions and billions of dollars, not to the government, but to us. Study. Let me just throw this out there. Study that this was just from yesterday or 2 days ago. Insurance costs to soar under Obamacare, and we've heard millions of these stories now. But so new research from the Manhattan Institute estimates that insurance rates for young men will rise by 99%. 99%. Rates for young women will rise between 55% to 62%.
And I've seen estimates as high as 300%.
Yeah, I mean, and it's state by state. It's different depending on the exchanges and the coverage and what's going on in your individual state. But this is ugly for everybody. Nobody comes out good in this. At least, even the people that are going to get this for free, supposedly, or kind of free, are going to have longer waits, less competent doctors as time goes on because more doctors are going to leave the system and they're going to need more doctors. And
how long till you get a cold pack for pneumonia like
Absolutely.
they do in
Absolutely.
Britain?
One of the things I'd watched the other day, watching C-SPAN and watching the Senate debates, was Jim Inhofe, senator from Oklahoma, that got up and he had talked. We always hear the Democrats talk about personal experiences and Peggy Sue, who's on welfare, is going to be so much better off now. Well, Inhofe made a good case, and it was a personal experience case, and the Republicans need to do more of this kind of thing. His case was his wife.
Some of these comments are great, sorry.
She'd be dead today if she had to go through the Obamacare or European model of health care, because the procedure she had done within 3 weeks would have taken 6 months or more in a socialized medicine country, and she'd be dead. It was a cancer procedure, and
but she has free health care.
Yeah, but
doesn't mean much when you're in a box.
Isn't that kind of the point anyway? Isn't that why they've got death penalties?
Absolutely.
You know, if they can get you to die before they have to spend money on you, doesn't that solve their problem?
And wasn't it a Democrat congressman who said the Republicans' plan was for people to just die? Wasn't that
dirty air,
who's that?
dirty water?
You know, there's more. Chris, you were talking about
Alan Grayson.
You were talking about this is the last gasp of fighting against this Obamacare and fighting against the overall healthcare issue.
Some
and
of
the
you
thing
that
is,
become regulars are going to have to get screen names so I know who says these things. They're pretty good.
I was listening to Glenn Beck the other day, and I really wish that we had the sound bite, but they had Ted Cruz on the show, and they said, what is your opinion on this sound bite? And they used Barack Obama, and they said, when he was running for president first time around back in 2008, he was saying how we can fundamentally change this country within 5 years. If we do this in 5 years, we can fundamentally change this country. And then he was saying just 2 days ago, now we're 5 days away from fundamentally changing this country with this bill. And this is our last gasp to actually do away with what he's saying, because right now we're at this edge where we can become a socialist country or we can become the republic we're supposed to be.
Oh, that's very true. Very true.
Yeah, and the pundits on TV, who tend to be more of the establishment, want to talk about how, well, we're doing it wrong. This should be a fight to gain seats in 2014. Well, guys, in 2014, this is law, and you're never going to get rid of it. So if you're doing the right thing for the country, you're going to stand up now and fight this all the way to the end. If you're doing the right thing to gain seats in the House or Senate and worry about something else down the road, then maybe you shouldn't be there.
Have we ever been able to replace or to repeal an entitlement?
No,
I didn't think so either.
We're gonna move. We should move on to the Big Bird story.
We'll get to that. Well, let me throw one more statistic out from this one. North Carolina. You thought 99% was bad. North Carolina really skews that curve, because if you live in North Carolina and you're a guy, you're going to see a 305% rate hike.
Great.
And if you're a woman in Nebraska, 237%.
But if you live in New York, you may get it cheaper.
That's the only state on the chart, I think, that you might get it cheaper. I don't know what that says about New York.
Unless you're a member of the House, right? You're exempt.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Member of the House, member of the Senate or
Yeah.
the president.
And they get it for free.
Because they're no longer allowed to
free,
be in the
free.
government because they now have titles of nobility.
So do we have
off our
impeach
dime.
them all?
They get free health care for free off our dime, but yet they don't have to pay into it. But yet we will have to pay into it.
All right, so do we have Big Bird yet?
Yeah.
Are we ready for Big Bird?
I'll put Big Bird up there for happy Big Bird.
Guys, during the 2012 presidential election, there was a lot of information about Mitt Romney causing Big Bird to lose his subsidies, lose his taxpayer funding. Well, I don't hear anything from the left right now about...
We'll get to gun control, guys.
What's more important, Big Bird or guns? Come on now.
Well, we can hunt
Big
Big
Bird
Bird
with
with
the
guns.
That'd be great. Big Bird with the
So
gun.
we had Mitt Romney declares war on Big Bird, right? We had that. You remember that from the presidential debates even. It was part of the damn debates. Well, now here's the twist. It seems that President Obama is really the person that's killing Big Bird here. Why? Because Big Bird has now lost his health insurance coverage thanks to Obamacare.
Poor Big Bird.
He is going to have to get into an exchange. He may have to work 2 jobs. I don't know what a second job would be for Big Bird.
No context for you. Here's a blind king.
So the real meat of the story was that Big Bird is going to go to part-time and lose his coverage because many PBS employees, many employees of the...
Off our dime.
Yes.
And they always ask
many
for money. I know
employees-
that we have to pay for PBS. So go ahead.
Sesame Place is a theme park in Bucks County in Pennsylvania. Oh, I guess we need a...
Need a refill,
break.
guys.
Hang on.
Here we go, just for y'all.
Anyway.
So
gotta have fun.
So in Bucks County, where Sesame Place is, Somehow it's appropriate. I guess you're cracking a beer during
Bucks
Big
County
Bird.
is in Sesame Street.
Sesame Place is a amusement park, kids theme park there. I've actually been there. One of the biggest tourist attractions in the area, and they're going to terminate health benefits for part-time employees. I guess Big Bird qualifies as part-time, so Big Bird will be losing his health care.
So he gets to pay $300 a month?
Well, I think it only matters the number of hours you work, right?
Well, no, if you don't get it, if you're not subsidized, then it's $300 a month.
He's a bird. Come on, stick
He's
with
been
me.
on television for well over 30, 40
He
years.
can probably afford it.
Yes.
He's probably got a pension by
Yeah,
There
now.
you
yeah.
go. By now.
But this is not just unique, in all seriousness, this isn't unique to Sesame Place. This isn't unique. We've got SeaWorld here in our own state where their employees are now being cut to part-time. Part-time work now is going from 32 to 28 hours. People are being laid off. We've seen it with Home Depot cutting insurance benefits to their part-timers. We've seen it with dozens of other companies, big, large, small, all over the country. Yet we keep having a president that talks about how great this program is, how everybody's going to be covered, how it's working.
And their employer has to pay for it.
I don't know what planet he's on.
Right. Because the employer has to pay for it, they have to cut hours because they can't afford it.
That's right. That's right. So you get to go have two jobs and then pay one of your jobs just is strictly to pay for your health insurance. It's mandated. Unless, of course, you can pay the $95 fine for the year. Of course, 2 years of that, and we're on socialized health care altogether.
Well, and the fines go up, Matt. You know that, right?
Yeah, that's what
year
I'm saying.
two,
Well,
you
they're
know what?
higher.
Here's-
Year
let me-
three, they're
I'm gonna
they're
go
the
from the
first,
other side.
expensive.
the second year, what is it, like $105?
Yeah, it's not it's
Yeah,
like
so
195.
within 2
so-
years, how many private businesses
But
are
you
going
know,
to be
let me-
offering insurance?
I'm going to
Right,
go. I'm going
right.
to take
They
another.
jump to big. The fine jumps
Yeah,
big
yeah.
time in the third and fourth year.
Well, exactly,
Well,
because
here's
it's
the thing.
already going to be socialized.
I want to bring this up because a lot of people seem to think that Republicans, Democrats. The Democrats always bring up the fact that Romney had the same health care back when he was a governor, and he pushed what they call Romney care. Now, if we take it from the other side and hear, what is your view on that? Because you've got Republicans who on a state level supported a national health care on the state level, which is totally different than the national level. But their argument is that Romney was the one to implement this first. So my point is, how do we find middle ground? Why can't we just say overall, there shouldn't be any nationalized health care? There should be your own private health care. You know what I'm saying?
How about we just get government out of healthcare to begin with? We have
Exactly.
never had a real free market healthcare system in this country at all.
You know,
Never.
And I'll look at it from two different points of view. The first, if you're looking at it from the point of view of the Democrats who say, well, it was good for Romney in Massachusetts, why are we opposed to it
Right.
now? The first thing I'd say is that's a state, and
But does it make it right?
that's not the federal government.
Doesn't make it right,
It doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
But that's a state decision, and states should be empowered to have a different decision-making ability than the federal government. You've now created a situation where the entire country has to deal with this, not just a state. If you have programs, states are like incubators, and we saw this with welfare reform. When states were able to implement things on their own, you had 50 different states with 50 different kind of policies, and they all were in a little bit of competition with each other. And you got better programs, you got better ideas because there was competition. Imagine that. But the other part of this is that Mitt Romney, while I thought he should have been elected, wanted him elected, voted for him, he is not our standard bearer. He is not the Republican Party leader right now. He is a former presidential candidate.
Right.
We have to do what we believe
But let me
is
ask you,
best
Chris.
for. We have to do what's best for the people of
For
the
the
country,
people.
and
I don't wanna-
there are conservatives that were elected, and they need to. Stick
I don't
want to
get off.
Elected.
I don't want to get off topic, but the thing is that when we keep talking about how the fact that we voted for Romney and that was the better pick over Obama,
Sure.
and we picked McCain over Obama and that was the better pick. Now we see what's going on in the Senate with Ted Cruz versus John McCain. And then we have the Democrats saying that Romney had Romney care. The point I'm trying to make is, why does the establishment, why does the higher party and the latter always pick the people that really are not core line principle conservatives? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't always happen. It happens when the party picks, but the party doesn't always get their choice. And when the party establishment...
Why don't they get their choice? Because you think it comes down to funds, or do you think it comes down to the money, the tunnel?
That's usually why you would get the choice if you're the party, because they have the money. But that doesn't always happen. And the best, most recent example of that, and it's interesting because Mark Levin talked about this on his show this week, and it was the Reagan factor. Reagan was hated by the establishment.
Oh, yeah.
He was the
Ted Cruz.
anti-establishment. Exactly,
Cruz,
and that was his comparison.
And now they love him. And after he's gone, they still love him.
You had a guy in Reagan who challenged the sitting president, although he was not elected as president. He was the sitting president, the establishment. He ran against him and came close, damn near beating him in the primary. He took it all the way to the end.
Glad to see I'm not the only one who thinks
that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Reagan was hated in '76 by the establishment. He wasn't well liked, going into the 1980 presidential election. Let me just get this out. He was George Bush Sr. H.W. Bush was the establishment pick in 1980. Reagan just beat him, and the reason why Reagan was able to win was he had a message that was clear. It was the right time in America for him to have that message. He communicated it very effectively, and that makes all the difference.
Well, can I say real quickly, we've had this discussion before, and I asked you why you think that George H.W. Bush was picked as his vice president, and I think many of the reason you told me, and I think everyone else agrees, is that because he was the establishment pick to be vice president to get on a winning ticket. See, there's always favors being made in both parties as far as working up the ladder. Now, Ronald Reagan was the Ted Cruz of that time, and the only way that the party was going to accept him at the time was because he had to pick somebody from the other side to get on the ticket.
Well, here's the other thing
agree
too.
with that, yeah.
I mean, here's the other thing too. It's hard to be a Ronald Reagan when you're in the Senate, because it's a body where you have 100 people, and it's hard to distinguish yourself, and it's hard to set policy or show that you can make a difference. That's why our best candidates usually are governors. Reagan was a governor. As a governor, you can make some changes that are clear to see in your state, and you're a CEO and not part of the team of senators. So it's easier to set that distinction and make your vision a little more clear when you're the CEO of your area, of your state, than it is to be a senator trying to pass legislation through compromise with 99 other senators.
Now, Matt, you had an issue you wanted to bring up, right?
Yeah. Are we ready for that?
Yeah.
You gonna switch gears? All right.
What, are we off Big Bird now?
We're going to get off a Big Bird.
For any of our listeners that may have a part-time job available, Big Bird is looking. You can reach him on Sesame Street.
Wait, what about Bert and Ernie?
Poor Big Bird. Well, Bert and Ernie's gay now, so they can, they get special treatment.
I could never figure that out.
Yeah,
anyway.
well, they're supposed, I don't know.
Okay, well, you got Snuffy, you've got, Count.
Right, that's Snooky from the Jersey Shore. Snooky.
Oh, God. All right, well, I'm going to play this video. It's got a little link to it. I'm sure it played on Fox a lot. I'm sure a lot of you guys saw it, but I want you guys to pay attention to this, because I've got a few takes that I haven't heard anybody talk about, and might ruffle some feathers, but we'll see.
Oh, is that back to Big Bird?
No, it's not back to Big Bird. It's okay. Here.
Ruffle feathers, come on.
1 minute, because many questions actually dovetail from that, and so I'm trying them all together for trade. So I want to get to as many as we can. I do want to get to as many questions as we can. So if you can.
It's actually for the parents. It's not really for you guys. I want to know how many parents here are aware that the goal of the conflict for standards isn't to prepare our children for world-class universities. It's to prepare them for community college.
Okay, let me do this. Let let me do this.
I have trouble knowledge of this. I grew up there, not the best schools. I still think they're not the best schools, but I love football.
Sir, I will say this, out of all fairness to everyone
I
who
went to
submitted
Essex Community
questions.
College. I finished at the University of Maryland. And now I moved my family out to Howard County because of the reputation of the schools.
Okay, so in all fairness to other parents who submitted questions, I do want to be fair, sir.
Community college. And, so
Sir.
my question is, how are we talking about college, you're not talking about which colleges, you're not preparing them for world Harvard. Okay, my question is, how is lowering America's educational standards to prepare kids for community college? Because that's what it's all about. Because you mentioned before that, the emphasis is, and I have some stuff here to quote before this guy tries to carry me out.
Okay.
But, hey, listen, parents, take control. This is not a CNN political debate. Let's go.
Let him ask his question.
This is what I will say, in fairness to everyone who asked questions, we do have some that are dovetailing to that.
Let him ask his question.
So the next question. So this is a dovetail.
Don't stand for this. You're sitting here like cattle. You have questions. You confront them. They don't want to do it in public.
Okay, the next
Excuse me, buddy. Hey, this is America. This is not a CNN political debate. You're managing to go through water. Hey, that's right. Parents, you need to question these people. Do the research. It's online. Top 10.
Okay, so the next question to our panelists. The next question to our panelists is Dr. Lowry.
I'm not an activist, Paul. I'm not an activist. I don't have materials. I'm a parent. I have a right to speak.
Okay, so
You're
the next
asking
question to Dr.
softball
Lowry.
questions.
And again, I do want to be very respectful to everyone who asked questions. And so the next question really is, Dr. Lowry, to you, because you work so closely with 2- and 4-year institutions. Is the Common Core State Standards implementation by Maryland an attempt to filter students
And they're
to the community college?
schools. And now they're concerned.
So I'll repeat the question. Dr. Lowry, because
All right, it was a little slow getting back. Sorry. My question here is, obviously this is tyranny. This is straight up tyranny. If you are not allowed to ask a question of your own school board when you've got a child in there, that's tyranny. Now, this guy was obviously in the right. I've got no problem with in fact, I applaud what he did. My problem here is, why did the other parents sit back and watch?
Because that's what they're used to.
Exactly. When are people going to wake up and realize that there's 200 of them and there's one jackbooted thug pushing the poor guy around?
Yeah, and that's a good take on it, a good question, Matt. And part of the problem, and we're not just seeing that here, we're not just seeing that in
our
this
own
video.
county, everywhere.
We're seeing this in other areas. This was a question that clearly, I guess, that particular school board didn't want to hear any difficult question or any question that didn't pertain to what they wanted to.
They allowed questions to be submitted beforehand,
right,
so that they could choose which ones they would ask,
exactly,
which is
exactly.
crap all on its own.
But and that's all beside the point. The man's he can ask any question he wants, or he should have been able to ask any question he wants. Where I'm going to go with this is maybe a little bit different. I think you're going to definitely agree, but this is just one more example, one more step in the process of taking away people's freedoms. We see it here. We see it recently this week. You had the case where you had a kid playing in his front yard with a gun, a toy gun, and a school bus driver reported him, and that was in his own yard on his own property. Wasn't in school, wasn't on the bus, and that kid is suspended for the rest of the year for something that wasn't even in school, wasn't a school function. It was in his own yard. And no one's standing up to that either.
Remember what happened locally? Remember what happened locally with that kid that prevented a school shooting?
If you guys don't know what happened locally here, there was a kid at Cypress Lake Middle, and on the school bus, somebody pulled a gun and he stopped the kid from shooting anyone. He took the gun. He was a hero, and they suspended him.
Right.
I think they both got in trouble, but the kid who actually stopped the shooting was the one who got in the most trouble.
Right. And not a lot of these stories are not making any of the news. And it's funny because I see that they're only doing things for ratings, and they only want the stories that are tragic. But when there's heroism involved, it doesn't even make any kind of... Like, let me say, for example, I tried to help this kid out, and I tried to raise some money for him. And what's disappointing is that I tried to push it out there, and we only raised, I think it was $70 for the kid.
Yeah, $70.
$70 for him. And I was in contact with his lawyer, and I was trying to raise as much money as I could to either pay for his legal expenses or pay for college, but nobody jumped on it. And I brought it to everybody. I brought it to the local party. I brought it to the community. And it seemed to me, and there was only a handful of people across the state that I knew that dropped in a couple of bucks. But the thing is that after about maybe 6 to 8 months, after pushing it so much, it was like nobody cared. Nobody even paid attention. And
yeah,
it's
I remember
unfortunate because that heroism that happened.
I remember when the YR did that. What, didn't we raise like $70?
Yeah.
$70.
Yeah.
70.
It's pathetic.
Yeah.
But I think the real issue here that we need to look at from that is you're not allowed to defend yourself. You're not allowed to defend others. You're only allowed to go crawl into the corner and wait for somebody else who's got a government approval
Right.
to defend someone. So in other words, you're supposed to go lay down and die while somebody else who from the government comes to save you. In other words, for lack of a better way to put it, it's slave training.
Yeah. You know, the story I wanted to bring up later was the fact that right now the U.S. is suing a company over minors' religious objection to hand scans. Now, at work where
I want to know who put that last comment up there.
I at my job, we have hand scans, and religiously, I don't think anybody has the right to tell an employee or tell anybody for that matter that if you have a religious view and you say I don't want to scan my hand because I believe, you know, in this case, your religious view on revelations,
let's go ahead.
Scanning
and
your hand to punch in and punch out, I think, is across the line as far as your rights in this country. And that kind of goes into the story that we were just talking about, as far as, you know, the school board telling, you know, a guy not being able to...
The story you're talking about here is where in Pennsylvania a minor sued because...
no, the U.S. is the U.S.
Yeah, the U.S. is suing on his behalf because he sees... And you know what, this is one of the things... It's... might be a little hokey to think that's the mark of the beast. It doesn't quite even match up what Scripture says.
View.
But
right.
yeah, this is one of the times where I have to applaud what the U.S. government is doing because they're actually standing up for someone's rights. There's not too many times I can actually say that. I can probably count on one hand how many times I could say that in the past 2 years. You know, so this.
But I'm just saying that we're talking so much about the Muslims and how we should respect their rights and, you know, and let them build the temples that they want and all of those things. But then at the same time, when we're talking about Christians' rights...
And of course, we've got to point out that they have this huge thing going on in D.C., and it's 21 people.
Did they mention that in the news?
No, they showed
not.
it. They tried to blow it up, but I don't think anybody actually said how many people were there.
Right.
But then again, they obviously didn't say anything about the truckers or the bikers or the people that actually could muster some kind of force.
Even that rally that was going on with those Harleys.
No, they didn't do anything.
DC,
They didn't show anything.
Did you? I saw it all over Facebook, but I didn't see it in the news. That's interesting.
Well, Facebook is a reliable news source, isn't it?
Well. Who knows these days? Did you have something else?
I missed something here. Oh yes, that must be Paul. The bacon comment. That's got to be Paul.
That's a dead giveaway.
How's it going, Paul?
All right, I'm gonna have a little fun here with you guys, and I'm gonna read you two quotes, and I'm gonna ask you who said each quote. Okay. The first quote: "The fact that we are here today to debate raising America's debt limit is a sign of leadership failure. Increasing America's debt weakens us domestically and internationally. Leadership means that the buck stops here." That's the first quote. Let me read you the second quote. Now, this debt ceiling, I just want to remind people, in case you haven't been keeping up, raising the debt ceiling, which has been done over 100 times, does not increase our debt. It does not somehow promote profiligy. Who is it that the first quote can be attributed to, and how about the second?
And they got it right. It's Obama on both counts. And the
Obama
first one
on
was
both.
in 2006. Very good.
So where's the media? Where's the media calling him out on his, I was for it before I was against it? Where are we hearing that? Anywhere? Except on Paul Revere?
When a serious question's ever asked of Obama, they just bring in a cute little puppy dog.
I don't even hear that on Rush.
Really?
I may be wrong. I don't get to listen to him every day. I mean, but
yeah, we're hearing it on other conservative shows. You know, they're calling out the clear double standard, but
well,
you'll
I've
never
heard that,
hear it
but
on
I haven't heard that
ABC
reference.
News. You know,
Yeah.
or it's just one more thing we have to deal with as conservatives.
Your prize is a good pat on the back.
Well,
All right.
So moving along.
Moving along. There was something I needed to talk about here. Go ahead.
Let's stay on the debt ceiling for a minute,
Go
okay?
on that, because I forgot to put this into the feed.
And this is an article that the Heritage Foundation put out earlier in the week, and it's titled 6 Reasons Why the National Debt Keeps Rising. And I'm going to just give you the headlines, and we can talk about each of them if you'd like. But I mean, the first is they want to keep up appearances, and this comes down to the heart of why we have this problem. First, they want to keep up appearances. Ever-growing entitlements driving ever greater government spending is what they're talking about in point 1. And it says politicians pretend America's national budget can handle all the extensive promises that they've made. Well, we know it can't. We know that that's not possible. And why? Because there's so much fraud and waste and abuse, and it's a typical government
and
program.
$85 billion a month being stolen by the Federal Reserve.
Typical government program. The second part, and you know, I think we definitely have to talk about this, but it's that they are unwilling to sacrifice even wasteful spending. And we hear about this all the time. There are bills that are just piled with pork.
and I got one right here,
bacon
actually.
for Paul.
I got one right here, too.
$42 billion in programs that are duplicative in the federal government. $42 billion. That could.
I think that number's. I don't think that number's high enough.
White House tours again.
I don't think that number's high enough, though. I think that number is pretty low. I think it's higher than that, but
That probably is. I mean, that's just programs. The third, it's business as usual in
Ricky's
Washington.
drinking too, guys. Be fair. I'm just the only one who will do it on camera.
Coffee.
Sure.
So if you're a change in business as usual, and we all know that's true, right? Everybody knows that if you put some pork in the bills, you get that check in your campaign fund, right? So that's definitely a problem.
and all of them do that.
Fourth, they're addicted to stuff, and this is great, you know. And because we have someone at Heritage in Jim DeMint who's been through this process, who's been a senator, who understands the inside workings, we can get some of this stuff out there. Policymakers in Washington enjoy a good haircut, lavish conference vacations, and even renovating their bathrooms. This is stuff that our money went for. We had to renovate the bathrooms over there in the Senate, in each of the offices, I suppose. Right now, in the middle of trying economic times. Over 100,000 or over 10,000 registered lobbyists, re-election campaigns. We hear the same thing over and over again. You know, people don't look at the long term.
Real
Obviously.
quick here. They're bringing up a good point here. There's predictions all over about an energy recovery. All this being for naught because there's a big energy recovery, and I don't know who is, because nobody's got any account yet. So I don't know who's actually saying it, but you're exactly right on when you say not with the coal regulations. They're actually shutting down coal plants. At one point, they were shutting them down to the tune of one a day. Texas now is buying its energy from Mexico because coal is somehow dirty when it's the cleanest source of energy we have because of the scrubbers on the stacks. I mean, basically, the only thing that comes out of there is water vapor and carbon dioxide.
Absolutely.
So you can breathe what comes out of those stacks, and it will not hurt you.
But
But
according to the government, right?
well, yeah, because we exhale toxic poisons that are killing the earth because we are a poison. We exhale carbon dioxide,
okay.
which is the big poison that's going to kill the earth. Because we're a virus.
Is that
we
why
have to be
we
done
went-
away with? Anyway, they will not. You will not see a recovery because they're not going to let up on the coal issue.
Well, it's not just a coal issue either. I mean, that's a big one. I think I read just today an article where it was 260 or 280 plants projected to close between now and 2015 in coal-generating power plants.
Yeah.
But it's a two-pronged attack. That's going away. XL
Gotta bring
XL
it-
Can I bring up
pipelines-
as far as
XL pipeline still nowhere.
Yeah.
as far as wasteful spending? Did you know that the White House announced that they will spend $300 million in aid to Detroit to help Detroit recover from its financial problems?
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's a good point, Rick, and a good topic.
While you guys are looking that up, I want to again. talk
Well,
about
nearly
the-
$300 million in aid for Detroit from the federal government.
Yeah, I want to go there. Sorry, guys, I'm
And
not going to talk
stu-
about this. I'm going to go here.
It's just interesting to me that they really think that, government is the solution.
How much in debt is Detroit? Do we know? It's well over 300 million.
gosh,
Right?
300, yeah.
Way over
What do you
that.
think
That's
that's
not
really
that's
gonna
chump
help?
change. What's that going to do except encourage them to continue the spending mess that they've created? Eventually, this has to come to a solution, and the solution isn't giving them more of our money from the federal government.
Well,
And and from your friendly state there of New Jersey, apparently they doctors are disappearing at high rate in New Jersey, and they are experiencing a shortage of doctors. In fact, it is projected by 2020 that the state will be nearly about 30,000 care positions short. What's going to be needed for the health care bill.
New Jersey is probably not too far behind California in stupidity when it comes to their government. I mean, do you know New Jersey charges an
we're
exit
run
tax?
by morons.
If you are leaving the state of New Jersey, if you sell a house in New Jersey and move out of state, you have to pay an exit tax to get out.
Right.
An exit tax on the sale of your house. Seriously.
No, there are other states that do that.
You,
as well. There's California,
It's
I
the
think California does
ultimate
it.
for you for those of you guys. Use my Jersey
Oh,
term. here,
God.
Who
We
who
don't talk.
who live up in New Jersey? It's the ultimate final toll that you have to pay to get out of the state. It's your exit tax.
I do have to give props to whoever said that. That very well may be the cause for the doctor shortage in New Jersey. Chris Christie very well may be eating them. No,
And then somebody told me not too long ago, and they really think that if Charlie Crist was to run for office and run for being governor here of the state of Florida again, they were bringing up the fact that they think that he will, and I can't tell you what the source is, but I can tell you that the opinion was that he will run on the merit of legalizing marijuana in Florida, and that will get him the popularity that he wants.
well, there's a
in the
whole
state.
different subject we will eat. Well, yeah.
That's
you
a whole
guys
other
got me on
subject,
eating
yeah.
now.
And you would-
We'll tackle that.
You would, that might make sense though, Rick, because you would have to be smoking something to vote for.
I would
Really?
agree. I would agree.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic of wasteful spending, let's take a look at the waste. Well, or is it a waste? We're now sending millions and sometimes billions of dollars, not only money but arms, to Al Qaeda in Syria. Openly now. In fact, Obama has, just waived the law that would define us under our own terms as a terrorist state. Guys, I hear everybody calling for impeachment for him. I'll go a step further. This is textbook definition, straight out of the Constitution, treason. He should be impeached. He should be arrested. He should be tried. This is treason.
But
There is no if, ands, or buts about it.
But Matt, he's popular.
Not so much anymore. What was it
no,
last time? He had like 19%.
He's the first. I gotta say, he's
support?
the first African American president. He also
I
has.
thought that was Clinton.
Well, no.
Let's.
And you wait. And let me say this. He's on Jay Leno. He's on David Letterman. He's on Nickelodeon. Oh no, that's his wife. And
he's also over in Kenya, campaigning for his cousin, who is the chief financier for several different.
His half brother, his aunts, and all these things you see on the computer or on the internet. You don't. He throws his family to the wayside, and then he doesn't. You know. But then at the same time, he's
he campaigns.
He's a rock
what was
star.
his name?
The guy is
I
still
do
a rock.
believe
he won an election last year.
Yeah, he
So
won. He
he's
won the
still a rock
election
star.
because I'm sorry, the people are sheep.
They
I'm
are.
also. I have to reference, and guys, I'm sorry I don't have it. I didn't know we were going to go here, but I have to reference several articles I've read in mainstream news about this past election. We had more voter fraud than ever recorded in the history of this country.
And even in Lee County, we had some.
Yes, we had voter fraud here in Lee
You know,
County.
that's no coincidence, Matt, that we had that, and you have the Democrat Party and the liberals who are so up in arms over having to show ID to vote. They know they won an election in part based on voter fraud, and that's the only way. If their ideas continue to be put into law, they're going to become so unpopular. It's the only way they're going to continue to win elections is through voter fraud. So if you've got to actually show an ID to vote and it hurts their cause, then they're going to lose elections, and it's why they're fighting that so hard.
Does a gravestone count as ID?
It does in Chicago.
Well, that's what they always say.
How about a dog tag?
They always say
like
that
jingle on a puppy.
If you have to have a driver's license to buy beer, or you have to have a driver's license to drive a car, or to file for anything, why can't you use a driver's license to vote? It doesn't make any sense to me.
You know, one of the other.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense
how about
at all.
this? How about this, guys?
But then we get all these crooked politicians.
I'm going to go a little further. I'm going to go a little further than anyone in the Republican Party is willing to go here. Okay, how about we go back and actually look at what the founders' definition was? There is no right to vote. There is no right to vote. If you don't have skin in the game, you don't get to vote. If you're on welfare, if you're on food stamps, if you're getting government assistance, you don't get to vote. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. That's why you were only allowed to vote if you were a landowner in the beginning.
You know, and I talk a lot of people about I voted for this person or I voted for that person, and in my head I'm going, why? And I'd ask them why, and they said, just because I saw their sign, or just because I know who they are because I saw their commercial. And the thing is that
this is why democracy never works.
I would tell them
democracy
straight to their
is
face,
a farce.
Listen, you shouldn't vote. If you don't know the issues and you haven't paid attention to what they have to say, you should not vote. And I would tell them that after they voted. You should just stay at home and eat your potato chips, watch television.
We get the word
stay
democracy. We get the word democracy forced down our throat constantly. Okay? Democracy does not work. We've learned that all the way back from the ancient Greeks. The democracy is what killed Greece. We have a constitutional republic, and in the words, and you guys are going to want to shoot me because I say this all the time. In the words of Benjamin Franklin, democracy is nothing more than two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. A constitutional republic is a well-armed sheep contesting the vote. You do not necessarily have a right to vote. You have to have skin in the game. If you don't, it devolves into who gives me more free stuff,
right? And
that's all that matters. And democracy always devolves into dictatorship or oligarchy, one of the two.
I think you're going to agree with this, that when it comes down to elections and campaigns, it all comes down to money, because people will take a look at that sign and go, I'm voting for that person. Just because it's a flashy sign, I see it on the side of the road, and I don't know much about that person, but just because I saw it, I'm going to go walk into the voter's booth now and I'm going to vote for that person. And it takes money to do that. And the thing is that many people don't realize mail-ins, signs, commercials, word of mouth, and it takes funds. And a lot of the funds come from either unions, they come from special interests like, lobbyists that they represent a company, or it comes from politicians doing favors for other politicians. But most importantly is that a lot of times it's all a game, and people in politics understand that not many people understand what's going on. And the best way to get the message out there is just have a flashy little mail-in, throw it out there for the absentee ballots, throw it out there right a couple of weeks before an election. And the thing is that people need to start realizing that it takes an informed voter to make a difference. You have to know what's going on in your county, in your school board,
Yes.
on your local level, in your city council. Because if you don't, you're not going to make any influence whatsoever. It doesn't matter if you vote for an R or a D. You have to know the issues.
Well, that's
Otherwise-
just it, and that's another thing. You know, most of our founding fathers, including George Washington, was against parties, and the reason is because it encourages people to be lazy. Well, they're a Republican; they must think like me. And we can see so many in the Republican Party now that they think like a Democrat because they are a Democrat, but they call themselves a Republican because here in Lee County, if you're a Republican, you get elected. If you're a Democrat, you don't stand a chance. So,
except for Marnie.
well, that's Cape Coral, and Cape Coral's its own little monster. That
Well, let's talk about two things there that came up in that conversation, and I'm going to tie them into something that one of the
yeah. Can you guys see
one of
that?
the
by
one
the
of
way?
the streamers, one of the listeners, what do we call them?
Viewers.
Viewers. Have put up, but the first is Cape Coral is a little bit different because people stay home. Nobody goes to vote. 7.92% turnout in the primary.
But see, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Over 100,000 people did not vote.
Well, it's a
that's
bad
not-
thing if
Registered
people
voters.
Well,
don't
yeah, because
know what they're voting
the only
on.
people that are voting are the ones that
But
want
here's the
this
thing,
to
Matt.
become Commuville.
At the local level, you get more influenced at your local level than you do at the national level. When you're talking about Barack Obama, really you should care about your local level because you get taxed more on your local
you're
level.
exactly right, and it comes back again to the way the Constitution was founded, the way this country was founded. The federal government, you're not supposed to feel anything the federal government does at the local level. You're just not. The federal government is there just basically to do some stupid things like make sure that people aren't running
Union
neutron
pension.
bombs
Wait,
across
wait.
the center.
interstate commerce,
Yeah.
tariffs, security.
Basic
But, you know,
stuff, run the military, but states have a little more power. And then when you get down to the city level, that's the one that really has power. Because you can walk right up to your mayor or your councilman, whoever's doing something you don't like, and say, "Hey, I don't want to put up with this. You're
Yeah, but
wrong
they'll
here."
say, you know what? It doesn't matter what you say because I have more power than you.
It's still the
and I have
government that affects you the most,
They
without
don't.
a doubt. If
When you have 7.9%.
if no one picks up your trash, you're
cares?
not calling your congressman.
Well,
You're calling
that's
your city
that's
councilman.
exactly right. But it all comes back to what we talked about earlier. The federal government has no constitutional authority to do things like Obamacare. They have no constitutional authority. I mean, believe it or not, guys, income tax is not constitutional. Number one, the 16th Amendment was never ratified. Number two, the 16th Amendment doesn't even say that we have to pay taxes. It's all corporations. Okay, so this is overreach.
Are you encouraging people not to pay
No,
their
I'm
income
not,
tax?
because you know what? If you don't, you're gonna go to jail. if
But
you,
that's
can't take
free
on the
room,
fence.
free room and board.
Yeah, it's
cable
3 hots and a
TV.
cot,
That's
free.
great. It's great. From what I hear.
Free healthcare.
Yeah, there you go. Free healthcare. Yeah, you're probably gonna die from the healthcare, but that's all well said.
One of the
great
things that
food.
was coming up on the chat that someone put up
even
in
see it.
all in caps, so it was easy to see from
can't
two
see
seats
it.
over, and it was no life careers, term limits is the answer.
That's part of the answer,
Well,
but you gotta
wait,
quit.
Before you go on term
It
limits,
is
let me
part
say
of the
one thing
answer,
about term
absolutely.
limits. One thing about term limits is that if you get a new elected representative that goes into Congress and they're new to the game and they're bombarded by lobbyists, they're bombarded by special interests, and the thing is if they only go in
Which
there
is
for,
also illegal, by the way.
but if they go in there for only 2 terms, the lobbyists win. They win everything. If
No.
they're in there longer,
Not at all.
why? What makes you think?
If
different?
you don't care about getting reelected over and over again, you don't care about the lobbyists. You care about doing what's right
And how
and
rare
going
is
back
that?
to work.
How
Well,
rare is that?
It's rare because
Because when you're at that,
we
when you're in
created
the
a culture of a
spotlight,
career.
they put these politicians on a precipice and treat them like gods. And that's the problem we have in this country.
And why term limits are an important
Fame
part
and
now.
popularity are more important to most of these politicians.
Right.
And by
than
the way,
making a difference.
I'm all for term limits for the judicial branch as well. We need to see Supreme Court justices with term limits as well.
Well, that's a hopeful dream.
It is a hopeful dream, but you know what? I have this slight glimmer of hope somewhere in the back of my head that we're not completely screwed.
You know, I think as a country we saw some dark days when Jimmy Carter was president, but we had a candidate in the Republican Party who not only talked a good game to get elected, but actually believed what he was saying. And guess what? The rest of the country believed it too, and they got behind him and supported him, and he won election.
Oh.
And I think we know that's Ronald Reagan.
Right.
So
It's not
you know
hard
what?
to beat
The-
Carter.
Okay, you know what?
But look, you could have said that about an unpopular
You know,
Barack Obama. too.
honestly,
Something real
that is
quick.
very true. That is very true. And Barack Obama is losing popularity.
He's not popular.
But
Yeah, it's not
let me say quickly that everyone always brings up Ronald Reagan, and the thing is that why can't we go back and talk about what we firsthand experienced on the local level, and at the fact that we know the games that are played, we know that the money is being funneled in certain directions, and the thing is that there's only one example everyone brings up: Ronald Reagan. On the local level, who do we have?
Well,
Who do we have as a Reaganite? Who do we have that's someone that really stands by principle and stands for the people and not the special interests? Who would that person be in Lee County? Give me one name.
Are we pushing for Ricky for mayor?
No. That's never going to happen.
Ricky Nelson, it's a popular name.
Little Ricky.
The
Give me one name.
The reason why
Give me one name.
The reason why I bring up Reagan all the time is because
He was the president.
I know we'll go back to that, but the reason why I bring him up is because it was really the last guy that communicated any vision for the country. So if you can
Okay.
communicate a vision, you can win elections on a national stage.
Yeah,
Locally, you tell me. I don't know.
I don't know.
Who's that guy?
See,
that
nobody
that
can
does
really
that?
come up with a name. And you know what? Everyone gets all excited over one candidate or another, and some people would say, "Oh, you know, it's this county commissioner or this congressman was really, really conservative and really on principle, and he's going to be the next Ted Cruz." But then you find out through the inner circles that we can get involved with from time to time that that's not necessarily the truth.
It's usually not the truth.
It's not, and there needs to be so much more honesty in politics. And the thing is people are afraid. And if you stand up to
By the way,
honesty,
don't pound on the desk.
Okay.
That's going.
yeah,
They're cheap desks. Okay,
Um,
y'all can't see them because that was on purpose because they look like crap.
I know we got to wrap this up soon, but I just got to say that when we start talking about honesty in politics, and when people start being true to themselves instead of putting politicians on this precipice and treating them like gods, instead of making them represent the people, things will change. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And the thing is that within the inner circles that we see, that many of these people are doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. And it's really discouraging for people that are activists that try to change it. And a lot of people just don't get involved. And I mean, any of us could probably tell you stories that would make your skin crawl. And the thing is that nobody pays attention. And it's never going to change unless people start getting upset.
I think people are starting to get upset.
I don't see it here.
I
I really don't see it.
I see a thin, but see, like I've told you several times,
Oh,
we
the
don't
Tea Party.
need we
The Tea
don't
Party can
need
be
a
part of the problem.
majority.
I see Tea Party candidates that are doing the same thing as establishment candidates.
Well, yeah, Rubio. I mean,
Mm.
he's not a Tea Party candidate. Never was a Tea Party candidate. I tried to tell people not to vote for him, but you know, I do see people in general wanting to go back to a constitutional government. I see people wanting
That's too quickly. You're gonna
wanting
just-
to look at history.
You think we're just going to cut the
No,
government in
no,
half
no, no.
and
It's there is no overnight solution. There is no magic switch to flip. What needs to happen is these people that are getting discontented, and they'll tell it to me on the street. They'll tell it to you if you talk to them. But they're afraid to say anything because they see things like the IRS going after people. They're afraid. And you know what? Here's the key, guys. They can't get us all. If we all stand up, they can't get us all.
Well, it ties right back into the video you posted with the school board.
Well, that's just it. It's one cop. He can't arrest y'all. It doesn't even have to be violent. In fact, I don't want to see violence. I want to see people stand up and say this is wrong. You know what? The big thing is here, we have to withdraw consent. We have to withdraw consent. If we don't, then we get what we deserve.
Right.
But it comes back on you. Understand little things like the sovereignty of this country is based on your individual sovereignty.
Well,
and if you don't stand up for your rights, then this country will devolve into tyranny.
Yeah, as we wrap up, Matt, tonight, I want to, kind of tie into what you just said, and it comes down to get involved, do something, make a difference, stand up for yourself. And I'm going to tie that into one message, and probably for the next couple of weeks, I'll keep throwing this message out there. I imagine most of our viewers, listeners, are Cape Coral residents, and so I'm going to remind everybody that Cape Coral early voting starts October 28th and goes through November 2nd. General Election Day is November 5th. We had a 7.92% turnout in the primary. Can we please do better? Can we get the people? I know the people that listen and watch this show are going to be educated voters. So can you
are
please
the people that should be
vote?
voting.
Get out there and
but
vote.
If you don't know anything about these candidates, don't vote.
You do not have to vote for every single person on the ballot. You can only vote for the ones you know.
Vote. All right.
And if you don't know about them, feel free to call us on our personal numbers, and we'll give you our opinion. We may even do it on the show at some point.
Oh yeah, eventually I will get phone lines in here so you guys can call in, but it takes time.
All right. Thanks.
All right.